So this was just published this past week, and obviously there wasn't a gag order on this, um, because obviously the accused had little to no consideration for the fact that his intended sexual partner was both non-consenting and a minor. So, what makes this even more interesting is the presence of I don't know, a modifying factor in which Daniel Senecal identifies as a transgender, as a male to female. So, as per the law, the man's birth name is being used, which is associated with his sex and his gender, not just his performative gender of choice. So this article goes through all of the things, including a previous charge, again here, 4 years ago, on September 25th, 2021. Now, it goes, it doesn't, what it doesn't mention, but other articles on the internet about this incident do mention or highlight, is the fact that Senecal has Native heritage. And when you look at all of the behavioral evidence, that which is a predictor of a profile that makes a person into a sexual predator or into a serial killer, that, you know, they are just, and I'm saying they, when I'm referring to the police, are just incapable of prosecuting these, moving forward with charges and prosecuting these people because of their protections under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Because suddenly the person claims, oh, I have especially with the defense, they claim, oh, this is the result of residential schooling in the reserve system and a history of sexual abuse and drug abuse, or addiction within the families and the circumstance for which people live under, as being, a condition of a native. But this is not just an isolated incident in which sexual assault, especially upon a minor, or pedophilia, has been perpetrated by natives on white children. Now, I don't say, I have no proof to substantiate that claim, but it is not a phenomenon, right? There is this attitude amongst some natives that, oh, it's okay to enact a historical revenge upon the population of Canada. Let's look at this. There we go. There's that. This is one, Times of India. That's interesting. Sleeping toddler raped in Canada, trans identified. It's funny how this is from Times of India, right here, right? French, Native, and Irish finally figured it out. Yes, in which, again, psychopathy is psychopathy is psychopathy. And these people will use every single benefit that we give the population under the charter or by special protections or of affirmative action or social justice or any kind of new wave attempt to balance the scales as restitution and a let's say a movement of justice, of a change in jurisprudence. But again, if someone commits assault on someone else, where they perform a violent act against another person for the duration of their probation, this is reasonable. If you ask me, this is reasonable. Due course of action for a punishment. It is not extrajudicial in any way to ban that person from having any weapons or access to any weapons. But the natives, because of their culture and their hunting, and I witnessed this myself, and I sat in on 2 cases just before my own proceedings went forward for, if you've been following me, for charges that were summary charges, okay? Non-violent summary charges, that for which jail time was not justified. A year in jail on remand is torture for what I did. And what I did was prevent someone from committing suicide. But we allow other people to manipulate the judicial system so that they get off on later, let's say, later restitution. Sorry for rotating the screen there. Or later recompense. Like, this just doesn't stop. And the people on the side of liberal expression of democracy are like, oh, he's just a bad apple. It's just one minority of the minority that's ruining it for everybody else. It's not true communism. It's not true equality. This is not the truth and the reconciliation that we're talking about. This is et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it isn't. If there was a release, an FOI, a Freedom of Information request, that revealed the ethnicities of the people perpetrating these violent acts and these violations of childhood innocence, then I don't think that we would be so kind anymore, that we would be so understanding, and that we would be so multicultural. And that's exactly the opposite of their motivations, because what the left wants in this country and other countries is a slave state. What people forget about the American Civil War is that the Democrats were the ones that wanted to keep slavery going. It's not the Republicans. There we go. And this is another example that supports castle law, if we're going to make this current, and in support of Doug Ford and in support of Pierre Poilievre. And again, I must explicitly state, as I have before on the record, I am not a fucking sex offender. I have not ever committed an act of sexual assault, of rape, or statutory rape. Let's get this through people's fucking heads, okay? Because the statistics don't lie. But the people that want to manipulate the statistics to maintain their positions of power, they do. They lie. And they will always lie to protect themselves and the dirty deeds that they've done dirt cheap. You can't run from what you've done. Can't access this article. Anyways. I'm not going to continue on talking about the instance of the charges of the two accused Native men, in which the defense tried to justify their actions, or at least to ask the judge for some leniency because they themselves were the victims of sexual assault in their childhoods, or the victims of circumstance. But the truth is that if you use drugs to lure someone and to compromise their judgment and their cognizance and their cognitive ability, that makes you a predator. That makes you a predator. Right? I'm sick of this shit, especially after sharing quarters in a maximum security prison with people that laughed about this. They laughed about it. They laughed about their offenses. And you know what? They got let off. They got let off with a few months, and that's it. Or less than a year, whatever it is. Why? Because of the color of their skin, and because of their heritage, and because they held a status card. I'm fucking sick of this shit, I'm telling you. Because you know why? 40% of Canada, west of Manitoba, is of Métis heritage. So that means the heritage of Canada is Native, just as much as it is European.